So today we're going to do some basic stretches for the lower back, and oftentimes it starts with tight hip flexors. And tight hip flexors stem from sitting a lot or cycling, and I do both, so mine tend to be pretty tight often, and that can transfer into lower back pain. So we're going to start off with some self myofascial release of the hip flexor area. So you're going to start by kind of positioning yourself over a medicine ball or a foam roller, and kind of take a closer look at my feet. And I'm going to kind of rotate it a little bit to really try to find that trigger point where there's a lot of tension and a lot of tightness. And then when I find it, or when you find it, I should say, you'll want to hold it for about 10 to 20 or maybe even 30 seconds until it releases. And it can be really painful, but you'll know it when you find it. And so you'll just want to be patient and just breathe through it until it releases. Okay, let's move over to the other side. Same thing. So just position it over the other hip flexor and kind of rotate the feet a little bit. You'll have to kind of move it around until you find that tight point. Okay, so once you have released that trigger point, let's go ahead and roll over on your back, and we're going to go into a full body stretch. So just reach your arms overhead, nice and long, and your feet out in front, and kind of feel like someone is pulling you from both ends, just to kind of really stretch it out. Okay, now we're going to go into a few pelvic curls. So again, this is going to help loosen up that lower back, and you'll kind of see I'm kind of rolling my spine so that it's flush against the floor, against the mat, and then moving it back into more of a neutral position here. So you're going to do this, you want to do it about 5 or 6 times, and kind of do it at the rhythm of your breath. Alright, now we're going to move into a supine twist, feet and knees together and arms extended out into a T, and just let your knees drop to one side. And you'll want to just take a couple deep breaths here, and then on the next exhale, move your knees over to the other side. Take another deep breath or two, and you're going to repeat this really 2 times on each side total. Go ahead and bring those knees in for a hug and rock side to side to kind of help massage that lower back. All right, so let's move into the next kind of exercise or stretch. It's going to be a glute bridge, and you're not really holding your glute bridge up in a very long isometric hold. You're doing this in part to strengthen the glutes and the lower back, but also you know, again, if you're really thrusting those hips up, you're also giving those hip flexors a stretch. If you're tight, you'll feel it. You'll feel that stretch. All right, you're really going for about, again, 5 to 6 of these. So now we're just going to pause and go into a corpse pose or Shavasana just for, about 3 or 4 seconds, just to kind of relax for a moment. Okay, now we're going to grab the TheraBand and do some stretching of the the hamstrings and the calves. And so just wrap that TheraBand around your foot, extend the opposite leg out. And if you're tight in those hip flexors, you're going to feel the stretch, not just in your hamstrings and calves, but you're going to feel it also in the leg that's extended out straight on the floor. You're going to feel it in that, in the groin and hip flexor area if you're really tight there. So you want to kind of point your toes towards your face, and you'll really start to feel it in the calves and the back of the knees as well. Again, you're breathing very deeply here, and on each exhale, trying to deepen the stretch just a little bit more. All right, now we're going to move into an inner thigh or adductor stretch. And again, you're just holding it there. Taking deep breaths. Okay, and then bring the foot back up to center. Really try to drive that right hip into the mat, and then just carefully take your foot across the midline of your body, and you'll really feel a nice stretch kind of on the outer leg, a little bit of the IT band area. And then bring it back to center, and then we'll go ahead and switch legs and do the same thing on the other side. Before you go into that adductor stretch, you want to put the band, so both ends of the band, in the hand that's on the same side of the leg that's elevated, because what you're going to do, again, when you're kind of going into that adductor stretch, you're actually going to use the opposite arm kind of as a counterbalance, and you'll see it better on this angle just because my arm is on the side of the camera, and then you can see my leg falling out to the side to really get that deep stretch. But having your arm extended out into that kind of that, not quite a T position, but a half T position, really provides that counterbalance, so I'm not kind of rolling over, and again, that helps to deepen the stretch. Same thing, just kind of bring the band back to center, and if you need to readjust it, go ahead. And then pinning that left hip down, you're going to then carefully take your foot across the midline. It's not a big movement, it's only a few inches. If you're really pinning that hip down, it's not a big movement at all, but you'll feel it. Now we're going to move into some quadricep and hip flexor stretches here. You're going to lay on your stomach and then just kind of in that kind of a little bit propped up position, just elevate one of the legs. In this case, I've got my right leg elevated. And you may just have to stay there if you're really tight, but if you can and you are able to, go ahead and reach around and grab that ankle like I've done here, and just take some deep breaths. And on each exhale, again, try to deepen the stretch just a little bit more, bringing that heel closer to your buttocks. Okay, let's go ahead and switch sides. Same thing, just elevate the leg. And then reach around if you're able to and bring it a little bit closer to your butt. Take some deep breaths. Okay, so go ahead and release that leg, and we're going to finish this up with a child's pose.